So, in the last video, I referenced stewards. And I think we really need to talk about this because stewards in our sport, horse sports, in any sport, are critical. And there are so many great stewards in our sport that I'm friends with, that I've seen for years, that do their jobs impeccably well. If you're out of line, they will call you on it. If you're not out of line, they're your best friend. And that's great. The thing is, the system should, by its design, incentivize the behavior that you want. And I believe the system that has been built by the FEI has some problems, that misplaces incentives. It doesn't reward great stewards as it should, and it doesn't punish bad stewards as it should. And I think we need to talk about this because we need to follow the rules we have first really well before we write new ones. And that's what this video is about. So let me talk about the way the system works, at least in jumping, or the parts of the system that I think could be improved. Again, this is just in jumping. It might be different in other FEI sports. So in jumping, the show management hires and pays the stewards. Then the FEI has what's called a foreign delegate, is meant as that person to kind of help make the stewards more objective in case that there's some subjectivity in, U.S. stewards managing U.S. riders at a U.S. show that's run by U.S. show management. So the foreign delegate's supposed to be that, more independent character. But this system doesn't really work because at a show where there's like 10 stewards, there's one foreign delegate. A lot of times they're in the judge's booth. They don't see a lot of the stuff that's going on, and so they can't really fulfill their position. And the FEI will say, oh, well, we tried assigning stewards to horse shows so that they could be more independent. And stewards hated that, and it didn't work. And I'm not saying we should try this because it already didn't work. So an amendment on the two extremes where the FEI assigns your stewards, but the stewards hate it, and the show management hires and pays the stewards directly. There needs to be a middle ground. Would be that if you're running a 3-star show, and this might change depending on your region. If you're in the US, Canada, it might be a certain amount of money that the show manager would pay in stewards for a 3-star compared to in Europe or in another country. So that amount might need to change by region. But if a show manager in the US, for example, is wanting to run a 3-star, they, instead of hiring and paying the stewards directly, what they could do is the money should be routed through an independent group. I think the FEI. Because the show manager already knows they're going to pay, I don't know, let's say $20,000 for stewards for that week. Whatever the amount is, who cares? Instead of the show manager paying the stewards directly, the money should come from a stewarding pool at the FEI, so the stewards are answered directly to the FEI. So the show management is not hiring the stewards directly and then can put pressure on the stewards if they're, not doing a job that the show manager wants. Now, this is not every steward. There's so many amazing stewards that I'm friends with that I've come across. But we're trying to design a system that incentivizes the less ingenuous people to be better. So this doesn't apply to the ones that are great. So in that system, the show management, yes, their money paid the stewards, but it went through an avenue that made the stewards more independent. And that would allow the stewards to apply the great rules that are written uniformly, really important, objectively, because there's been times where I've seen, and friends of mine have seen, stewards show some favoritism or the opposite, some hyperfocal, paying attention too much to someone. And so this system would fix that. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Well, if we make the stewards too independent, then they're like lords over everything. And I agree. There should be repercussions if stewards get out of line. For me, a competitor, if I break the rules, I get a yellow card or a red card. If I test positive for illicit drugs, I get sit down for a period of time, and there's trial proceedings and all sorts of things. If my horses test positive for any number of illicit drugs, I get sat down, and what I get sat down for would be public knowledge. Everyone knows. And that is a great system. I think we should do that with the stewards as well. If the steward is found to be negligent in their job and breaking the rules that they are supposed to follow, then there should be repercussions to that, and the repercussions should be public. And then once the repercussions are done, stewards should be able to come back. Similar to riders. You have a punishment, you serve your punishment, then you can come back. And all of that should be public, just as it is for me, the rider. Right now, in FEI, if a steward is reported, there's a large system where those reports go through certain channels. There's some investigation into that, and there can be repercussions to stewards, yet all of that system is private. And I think that's wrong, because the same reason why it's important for me getting it, let's say I gave my horse Winstrol, which is a steroid. No one ever uses that. It's important that what happened, what I did, I didn't actually do it, but like if I did, that is public, because that public punishment is an important part. If it is private and no one knows, that kind of lessens the whole like punishment thing. And it's the same thing with the stewards. Again, this doesn't affect the unbelievable number of amazing stewards that we have. This is changing the incentives for the ones that would benefit from that incentive. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I want to improve this sport. And we have great rules. We have great rules that are applied in amazing ways the majority of the time. I want to fix that minority, because those minority moments where things are not handled correctly can get blown up and made to be examples of deep rot in our sport. That rot does not exist, but people will use those extraneous circumstances to validate their conspiracy theories of deep rot. So we need to design a better system that tackles this so we get ahead of the problem.